I made a video on Agenus Vonderplanets about a week and a half ago. I was pretty nice about it, at least I thought I was. I just said my opinion a little bit and gave you guys some footage to watch and let you form your own opinion. And I received some very, very negative feedback from people who worship this guy. And if I'm going to deal with this negative feedback and negative connotation and you guys don't like me anymore, I'm going to tell you what I really think of him. And I didn't think I'd have to explain this. I figured that anyone with a semblance of intelligence would not be on my channel, but unfortunately that was very naive of me to assume. So let's jump into this. So the reason I'm actually making this is someone made a 50-minute video, and I will not name that someone because they were very disrespectful to me and very immature, and the only reason I'm actually making this video is because I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. I want to give them my information, and I have people bothering me and commenting on my YouTube videos right now to respond to this. So I have some notes here because this guy made a 50-minute video and I have just too much information to go through. So if you guys haven't watched that video on Vonderplanets, then either don't watch the rest of this video or just you could watch that and then get filled in on this. But this guy has told these elaborate stories from having 300 heart attacks to curing his autism, to all these very, coyotes fed him wild rabbit in the middle of the desert, and then he started killing rattlesnakes and eating, just all these very extravagant stories to sell his primal diet. And although these things are just stories and no one has confirmed them, there are 2 points in his life where his stories were proven to be lies. One, where he claimed to be writing computer code from a Beverly Hills home, but he was actually cited in a movie role in a film production under his original name, which was John Richard Swigert. And there was another time where he said he was acting on the daytime soap opera General Hospital, but IMDb doesn't say that. So those are 2 times he was 100% caught lying. The other times it was just, there was no other thing to confirm that he could have been doing at the time. The video that the person was critiquing me, he talked about how Agenus Vonderplanets had funding from all these rich people to do this research, and apparently he didn't think to fix his teeth, get a tailor for his suit, stop peddling his book like it was the end of the world, like he needed to make money. So those things don't match up if he's rich and has money for studies. And you said he did all this research and all these studies, and then that the courts blocked his research. Seriously? First of all, what research would he have done that would have blocked the courts? Research on nutrient density and degradation of nutrients in cooking? Because that research has been done to some degree, and we know that information. But he doesn't mention it here, he doesn't talk about it. None of this stuff adds up. And then you said that he was one of the best lawyers. That's how he got raw milk legal. First of all, raw milk is not legal. Second of all, no lawyer would give enough of a shit to make raw milk legal, for obvious reasons. And then you said he was a biochemist without a biochemistry degree, just like he was an expert autistic programmer without ever going to programming school, and how he... Please, this is completely ridiculous, and seriously, you guys are insulting my intelligence by making me do this. I am not happy making this video. No one ever asked this guy anything he said. They just took it at face value for granted. They never said how he did it, why, what process, what metabolic process does this, why do you eat raw foods, what are enzymes. No one ever asked him. And there's not one video of him explaining what they actually are. He just says, these things do this, and that's why you have to do other things. And then when you went to critique me and this book, and I did read this dumbass book. That's why I made that video and I didn't talk about the book, because it was ridiculous. It's the same thing I'm talking about now. And then you went to actually read this book and say, oh, this, and the point to the studies. If you read that book and then you read those studies, you wouldn't have made this critique video, because they don't line up. And I'm going to explain that right now. One thing to keep in mind before I go into this is all indigenous groups ate some form of cooked and raw food. Agenus Vonderplanets was a big proponent of only raw foods that were not heated or above or below a certain temperature, yet we do see freezing of food in Eskimos in the Arctic, and we do see cooking of food in every indigenous culture. And also, Agenus was a big proponent of juicing and raw honey, both things which are very unnatural in the context of indigenous diets. So in regards to cooked foods, the main things he used to debunk me and say, oh, this is why you can't eat cooked foods. He noted heterocyclic amines, which are carcinogens formed when meat is heated above a certain temperature. Or so we thought. The reason they're carcinogenic is because they took it and injected 10,000 times the normal amount into a rat and deemed it was carcinogenic. I explained that in a video actually a few days ago. The other thing he said was lipid peroxides are dangerous to us, and lipid peroxides are oxidized polyunsaturated fats, typically rancid fish oil, rancid vegetable oils, unnatural fats, seed oils. That's what those are, nothing to do with animal food. So if you read the studies, you would know that, but you didn't. You just quoted lipid peroxides and thought it sounded smart and dangerous, but that's not something that I take at face value, unfortunately for you. And then you said, you can't feed dogs cooked bones. Well, that's why humans use fire and dogs don't know how to make fire. I don't really think I need to explain why bones splinter when dogs try to eat them. Humans have tools, humans have very intelligent brains. They understand what parts of animals they can eat and what parts of animals they cannot eat. There's plenty of examples of selection in various indigenous groups. You said that I follow raw diet because of this guy. If I did, why wouldn't I just admit it? Like I didn't really know about this guy's book until I was on raw meat for a while. I discovered raw meat because I was eating a meat diet and I had a craving for raw meat and I just tried it and I liked it. That was how I don't know why that's important. And then you said that the reason I get raw milk from udder milk is because of Vaginas Vonderplanks. No, it's because this Muslim guy's killing himself getting me my milk. But on another note, no, I don't. I get it from Meadow Ridge Farms. I don't get from udder milk, and I don't eat dairy. That's very unusual that those few times where you've seen me have raw dairy have been times where I've tried it and had terrible histamine and allergic reactions to it. And I've maybe had raw dairy literally a handful of times in the past 2 or 3 years. I cannot eat it. Raw dairy is not relevant to me. I spoke on the raw juicing, but Jonas Vonderplank was big into saying that you can eat vegetable juice, but you can't eat vegetables, which that's one of the craziest things he believes in. It doesn't make sense from a natural standpoint, an accessibility standpoint, a practical standpoint. It just doesn't make sense. One thing Jonas always talked about was beneficial enzymes, yet he never mentioned what enzymes are. And why don't you go read your book, buddy, Jonas Vonderplank, We Want to Live, and look to where he explains what enzymes are in what foods. I mean, if you Google enzymes in honey, you can find out and understand that enzymes in honey help pretty much make glucose and fructose digest more efficiently, and various processes associated with being a bee. But in the case of enzymes in meat, well, I'm assuming you haven't found them yet, so I'll tell you. So there's 3 types of enzymes in meat primarily. Glycolytic enzymes are the first one, and what they do is they turn the glycogen into lactic acid after the animal dies. And what that does is it lowers the pH of the meat and it inhibits certain bacterial growth. It's not necessarily like it lowers the pH to do that. That's just what happens. When it's converted to lactic acid, the pH level of the meat lowers and certain bacteria doesn't form. The second enzymes are proteolytic enzymes, and those are the natural tenderizers when the meat ferments in the protein. So those are the enzymes that are in the protein, and the fat enzymes are called fat hydrolyzing enzymes, and those enzymes are what's in the fat and they ferment the fat. But these enzymes, if you freeze a piece of meat and you unfreeze it, the fermented flavor will be the same. So and you don't lose these enzymes. Those processes still will happen in fresh or frozen meat. So and in cooked meat too. There's these enzymes specific to meat. There's no temperature variable. There's no this. If you actually look at what enzymes are in meat and then look at what Jonas is saying, this doesn't make any sense. Alright, you called me autistic. You were making fun of my mannerisms and my facial movements, and I had double jaw orthognathic surgery to fix my bite. So that's why, since I do some film stuff, I try to be mindful of that when I'm doing those productions, but sometimes I do have to adjust my lip and my jaw because it is uncomfortable. You say making fun of me saying I use cosmetic products, I use hairspray. I don't. If I did, I would tell you guys. I really would. I do makeup checks in every video. I don't know why you have to personally attack me and make fun of me and then say that since I think I'm from New York that I know better than everyone else and that I don't understand nature. Alright, let's sum this up because I'm at my wit's end. I'm at my wit's end. Jonas Von der Planitz was correct in the overall idea of a raw diet removing inflammation and this diet being a very healing diet. Jonas did not understand why it was a healing diet. He said that raw food had nutrients that cooked food doesn't. He said that salt is bad for you. He said that food has beneficial enzymes that are necessary for optimal digestion. There's a lot of, it's interesting because a lot of things that you take at face value that he said, pretty much everything was correct in some way. Yes, raw food does digest more efficiently than cooked food, but not for that reason. He was, a lot of the things he said against cooked food and against certain foods was incorrect. But the things he said for certain foods and the benefits of certain foods, he was right in their benefits, but he just didn't understand why. He didn't know. I've never heard him talk about fat-soluble vitamins. I've never heard him talk about removal of inflammation. I've never heard him talk about electrolyte ratios with salt. So it just seemed like this guy was able to talk, but if I don't know if anyone ever pressed him or anyone with a reasonable level of nutritional intelligence asked him these questions. But hopefully you guys stop bothering me about this guy. I hope you understand that this whole idea about everything he says and what he talks about and all these things, just it's inconceivable to think any of these things are correct, whether it's his stories or his nutritional information. We could say that he had good intentions, he helped a lot of people. That's amazing, that's great, but you could use him as a positive example to say how we should be acting and treating and trying to help people. But if you're going to start saying bullshit about incorrect scientific information, then that's where I have to step in. So stop commenting on my channel about this guy, stop bothering me about it.